There was a point in my life where I wondered if I would ever be a good parent. I was really battling with mom rage and anger, and I didn't know what to do with it. It scared me. And in turn, I was not the parent that I wanted to be. I did not believe in my being that I was a good parent. I loved my children with everything inside of me, which was such a weird phenomenon, like to love your children and be this mama bear who would do anything for them, and also feel like I was failing as a parent. And that journey of self-discovery, understanding why I was feeling so triggered, what was causing the mom rage, why I was so frustrated and angry all the time. And so much of this came from the journey that I took to becoming a parenting coach. It really changed everything. So today I'm going to be sharing with you the 8 things that I quit to become a good parent. And as you're listening to this list, a lot of these things you can just start doing today, right? You can be like, oh yeah, check that off. I'm not going to do that anymore. But I want to encourage you that if these things feel hard to quit, that's okay too. It's okay to take your time. I'm all about the baby steps here. We're not trying to run a race, get a badge of honor for how fast we can go through this. I want true, deep healing. So maybe this is a video that you're going to save and you're going to come back to time and time again to remember how it feels to stop doing these things, to remember the things you actually want to do better, to inspire you and encourage you to become the parent that you were truly made to be. So before I get into this list, number 4 was the most impactful in helping me to become a good parent. So make sure that you don't skip because they all have their purpose and their importance, right? But they really, when I look at number 4, that is what changed everything for me. So the first thing that I quit to become a good parent was I stopped blaming my kids for everything, for my anger, for my mood, for the reason why I was late. I stopped doing that because I realized that it was a choice. It was a choice that I was angry. It was a choice that I was late to a friend's house. It was all my choices. And yes, do my kids have a temper tantrum here and there that caused me to be late to something? Yes, absolutely. But there is probably something in that process that I was maybe a little stressed before we were leaving, and that caused my child to feel the disconnection, to feel confused, and so they lost it. And so instead of blaming my kids for everything that I was feeling, for my inner world, I started just looking inward and realizing that I was the cause for everything. I was the reason why my children were dysregulated, why my children were having behavioral issues. I mean, if we go back to the video I did recently on how I taught my children about please and thank you.
To see how you interact with your children, that you don't say please and thank you hardly ever. And it was really surprising to me how little I expected this of myself to my children. And so that was the first shift I made.
I was modeling nothing. I never said please. I never said thank you to my kids. And I imagine that if I had stopped blaming them sooner, there would have been much more ease and much more love and connection at the most critical moments in my parenting journey. The second thing that I stopped doing was saying phrases that assume who my child is. And you're like, okay, what does this mean? Things like, oh, she's such a picky eater. Oh man, he is so naughty. He is a little brat. Those kinds of things that assume, I would say, a character trait or characteristic or something about our child that would define them. And I know myself, if someone defined me as picky, that would just make me be more picky. I am told that I'm a procrastinator. I'm probably going to procrastinate more because, that's who I'm told I am. It becomes my belief. This becomes my inner self-talk. And we as parents have that power to be our child's inner self-talk. So let's do that the right way. Let's not say things like, he's so picky or she's so naughty. Instead, in those moments where we are noticing our child is struggling to eat at the dinner table. My daughter struggled with this big time. We went from only eating 5 things, like she would only eat like about 5 to 6 things. She's at the point of trying everything. And you're like, how did you do this? I'm going to share a little bit more about that later. So the next thing that I did was I stopped looking for my child's weaknesses. I love the book. It's called The Parenting Switch, The Strength Switch, something like that. I will link it below. But this book was so helpful in helping me to realize that when we are constantly kind of nagging at our children and pointing out all their weaknesses, which we feel like we need to pluck out to make them to become a better child, to help them to become a good human. But imagine if instead we looked at their really good qualities, their strengths, and we use those to help kind of lift up those weaker areas. And so this is what I did with the picky eating. So as I mentioned earlier, my daughter was only eating 5 foods, really. She wouldn't even drink water, you guys, like juice only. And I didn't understand what I was doing wrong. So I felt like I was so understanding and so compassionate and loving. And I never pushed her into, eating any kind of food. And I just didn't understand. And what I realized was I was so honed in on the fact that she was a picky eater. I wasn't even verbally saying it. I was thinking it in my mind and treating her as such. And what happened was, as soon as I started to say to myself, she's not picky, she's particular right now. She's being very particular about what she likes. But this doesn't mean that she's picky. And eventually that particular ended up changing after I read the book, The Strength Switch, I believe it's called. And when I was able to make that shift into what is she really good at? Well, she's really good at being brave. This kid has such a strength at being brave and trying new things, whether it be going, on a swing or going, down a bigger slide. And this is not something that ever was her strength until one day I started noticing that there were things that she was being brave at. And then I started integrating that into other areas of our life. And before you knew it, she was using bravery in everything that she was doing. And one day she says to me, "Mama, I'm feeling really brave today. I want to try a tortilla," which she had never tried a tortilla. She wouldn't even look at a tortilla. She'd get mad if she saw it on the table. And I was like, "Okay, cool. Let me know what you think." It's just, "Well, don't look at me." So I didn't look. And sure enough, she loved it. And then that just snowballed and she started trying more and more foods. You guys, she's not eating like every single food under the sun, but she is eating almost anything that I'm putting on her plate, and she's at least trying it. And for me, that's all I could ask for, right? So I used her strength of bravery that I saw emerging, and I used that to help her with her picky eating. So this is why when I said earlier, saying phrases that assume who my child is not helping them. This is where I was struggling because I was looking at her weakness of being picky, and instead now I'm looking at her positive strengths of being brave and courageous. And let's be looking for those things within our children. Let's be searching for them, pointing them out, because that is going to help them to figure out how to navigate those things that are trickier for them to figure out. So the fourth thing that I did that was the most transformational was I stopped being constantly busy. So I stopped filling my schedule, filling my day, making myself feel like I had to constantly be doing something to be a good and productive mother, because none of that was true. The more productive I was, the worse mother I was. I thought that maybe like I would be known as the mom that did it all, and I thought that was such a huge badge of honor. And looking back, it was not. It was only keeping me stuck in the patterns that I was in. And so when I was able to slow down, that's why I named the channel Slowish Parenting, because when I was able to start slowing down, that's when everything changed. That's when I had more capacity for the meltdowns, when I had more capacity for my own feelings, when I was able to understand, get to the root of what was going on, not only for me, but for my child, to actually be there and show up with this love, compassion, empathy, connection that I so desperately wanted to do. And it was all because I started slowing down. If you're interested in learning more about slowing down as a parent, I have some videos and I will link those below or up here somewhere in the cards. So the fifth thing that I stopped doing to become a better parent was I stopped using shame phrases to motivate my child to do good things. I did a whole video on shame, talked about shame in so many of my videos, but we need to stop shaming our kids. We need to stop trying to motivate them to be good by using shame, because what you're going to notice is your child is going to start using that on you and on other kids and on friends, and that's not what we want. We don't want our child to motivate people to do things for them. We want people to, out of the goodness of their heart, just want to do something for our child. We want them to be friends with them out of just genuinely liking them, not because they feel like they have to out of shame. So I encourage you to really start to analyze how you are talking to your child. Notice what you are saying and how you are saying it, and jot down other ways that you can be changing these thought patterns. Like I said, I have a whole video on this that you guys can start diving into how to stop shaming your kids and why it is crucial as a parent to be teaching them this positive self-talk, because what we are communicating with them is teaching them how to talk to themselves, and we for sure do not want them to be constantly shaming themselves 24/7. That is not the self-talk that we want them to be having in their minds. The sixth thing that I quit is punishments. Ooh, this is going to be controversial. If you are like, your skin starts crawling when you hear this, like I'm talking no timeouts, no spanking, no hitting, none of those things, no shaming, none of it. And if this is making your skin crawl, please comment below and say, this is making my skin crawl. I could never not punish my child. But hear me out for a second. When I was punishing my child, I was paying attention to their weaknesses. I was only looking for the things that they were doing wrong. I was trying to correct the behaviors to make them stop because they were annoying to me. They were frustrating to me. They were triggering to me because they made me fearful of who they would become. They would become, needy. They would become self-absorbed. And I was having this fear that someday I would be looked at as a bad parent because of the way my child acted. And so imagine if punishments came off the table, okay? And we were getting down to the root of what was going on for our child. We were getting to the understanding of why they were making this behavior happen over and over and over again. What if we were allowing the feelings to come? We were allowing them to just be within their own bodies. Imagine if we could do that for them. Imagine if we could teach them how to handle these emotions and these feelings versus just suppressing it. And so this is why I no longer use punishments, and I believe that they are not effective and that they don't do anything. But that doesn't mean that I don't correct my child or that I don't have boundaries. There's a huge difference here. If you're interested in a video about what's the difference between punishments, correction, and boundaries, I would love for you to comment below, because I'm wanting to create a video. I think I haven't had the creative moment to really dive into that, because it feels like a pretty big video. But if you're interested, go ahead and comment below so I can create that. Okay, so the seventh thing that I quit doing to become a good parent is telling my child how they are feeling. I think that in the gentle parenting space, so many parents have gotten stuck in telling their child how they're feeling. Oh, are you feeling sad? Or are you feeling angry? Or are you feeling grumpy? Are you feeling scared? And it's this constant telling, this is how you're feeling. And never for a second have we thought let's just let this child experience whatever they're experiencing, whatever it may be. And maybe I don't need to tell them what that feeling is. Maybe they just can feel it. And I think we are in our mind saying like, oh, we're helping them understand what they're feeling. Like, it's a good thing. It is a good thing if you understand what you're feeling. I am currently creating the Heart of Parenting curriculum, and in the very first module, I talk all about communication. And one of the things we talk about is feelings. And as I was creating this module, I was in shock of how different my mindset has become around feelings, because for so long I thought that I needed to tell my child what they were feeling and, really give them, I guess, a blueprint of this is the emotion that you're feeling per how you're acting. And I realized that that was only hurting my child and only making them more frustrated and making meltdowns go longer. And so rather than engaging in that, I needed to start looking inward. So if you're curious, you're like, okay, this is very interesting, I want to learn more, this is going to be coming out in the summer of 2024. I am going to link below, whether you're watching this like before the course has already launched, or if it has launched, that link, I will change it in the description. But you can go there and you can either get on the wait list or you can purchase it. But yeah, my hope here is just that parents will understand that telling your child how they're feeling is not helping them. It's not teaching them. We need to help them to understand what's going on through their behaviors and through modeling with ourselves on what is going on for us, because that's the only way they learn. But like I said, more in the heart of parenting. The last thing that I quit doing is controlling my kids. I thought that my job as a parent was to tell my child what to do. I thought it meant like micromanaging them and telling them, right now you're going to clean your room, and then we're going to go outside and play, and then we're going to go on a walk. And like, they had no autonomy. They had no ability to say what they wanted to do or how they wanted it done. If I wanted the blocks cleaned now, they were going to be cleaned now because I am demanding respect. There was no room for them to be human, for them to try out, negotiation, things that are really important in our relationships. I think that we need to teach our children how to have a real relationship, not this domineering relationship, because most relationships are not that way. Yes, you may have a boss who is more domineering. That's like the one I get all the time, But yeah, they're going to have this boss, and the boss is going to tell them what to do. A good boss is not going to tell him exactly what to do and how to do it. He's going to look at his strengths and he's going to say, hey, you're really good at digital marketing. Dude, run with it. I trust you. What's your ideas? I want to hear about them. That's going to be a really good boss. But don't get me started on bosses and teachers and all of that, because I could go into a whole video on what we should expect from those around us and how we as parents can't use that as an excuse as to why we are being very authoritative in our parenting style. So the last thing that I want to say here is just that instead of controlling my kids, I wanted to find self-control for myself. I wanted to model the very behaviors that I was expecting of them. And I can't expect them to become a good, loving, compassionate, understanding human being if I am not treating them with that same level of respect and kindness. And it is not my job to be that domineering, very authoritative style of parent, because what all that is doing is teaching them that you must listen to your authority. But when it comes to all these other relationships, what do? How do I negotiate? And even with those authoritative type leaders, how do we negotiate with them? How do we have conversation so we are heard, so we're known? So that way our opinions, our thoughts, our deepest inner values are honored. Because that's important. That is so important as human beings, that we are seen, that we are heard, that we are known, that we are understood. And to be able to learn to communicate in that way with other human beings is one of the greatest gifts that we can teach our children. So I hope that this video was helpful for you. I hope that it gave you some ideas to start moving forward with so you can become the parent that you so want to be. If you are interested in diving even deeper, you're like, okay, I am ready to become that parent, I encourage you to fill out an application for coaching. This is honestly a great opportunity for you to completely transform who you are. And if you are ready to engage in that process, I'm absolutely here and ready for you. I so want to celebrate this moment with you. Alrighty, guys, if you have any questions, make sure that you comment them below. And as always, happy parenting.